Alright guys, let's see how this works. I've done some new things to my setup. I've got a brand new helmet. I'm hoping that that improves the audio quality. It's fucking Friday and I'm headed home. The only thing that sucks is now we're having an all hands meeting tomorrow at 7 a.m. Life goes on. The big excuse to ride the bike and the weather's good. Just the 5 hours at the shop is gonna kind of suck. And it's basically a giant bitch fest, so I'm not looking forward to that part. Anyhow, so my name is Zach. I'm brand new to motovlogging. I have some older footage by a week or two that I'm not sure if I'm going to use. It didn't turn out as I had hoped, and I tend to ramble and go on just all kinds of different rants about different subjects. So I'm really hoping I can get this video to stay on point a little bit better. I mean, I'm good at rant. That's just me. I'm going to go on tangents and talk about random stuff. I am riding a 2017 Road King Standard, I guess you'd call it. I don't even know if it has a sub-model. I'm really hoping traffic is fairly light. I get off work normally just underneath all the commuter traffic. Today, at the very last minute, my boss asked me to set everything up for the meeting. The owner actually asked me, so when the owner asks you, you just fucking do it. Well, and it really wasn't any sweat off my nose. I'm just going to go home from here, maybe stop for a cerveza on the way. Yeah, so 2017 Road King. I have my list of modifications are as follows. I'm going to jump the shark a little bit and say that it's got a custom paint job. A good friend of mine from the way back machine, he does full-on resto mods now, and he doesn't need to do any favors. He's established, he's got his clientele, he does just fine. Talented guy, always has been, but for whatever reason I managed to con him into painting this thing for me, and when he did it, he really wanted to push the envelope, so he took my humble idea of a burgundy wine patch panel traditional look with some silver scallops and turned it into a work of art, in my opinion. I really love it. He of course took my basic color ideas and really turned it into something that was going to, you know, come together. Yeah, it's pretty fucking cool. I will post a picture. And then beyond that, I have these 14-inch apes. I ordered a set of bars from KST Customs. The picture kind of fooled me, and I thought they had this reverse bend, and it turned out they weren't reverse bent. They were tapered out real hard, which I didn't like. So I told him, hey, I'm sorry, this is my screw up 100%. What can we do? And he goes, well, fuck, dude, he's all the company that makes those bars, they've got the patent on it. I can't make them and advertise them, but you know, I can make anything I want and you can buy it. And I was like, sweet. So he made me these bars and did not charge me as much as I probably think he could have. And he took the other ones back. I mean, the dude is just awesome. I guess it's two brothers. So at KST, I mean, just cool as fuck. Just awesome, right? Just no questions asked. I try to send people their way. You know, I paid the actual price he asked. I'm not going to say full price because it felt like a good deal, but I paid the price he asked, and he in no way is sponsoring me. I'm not sure what that lady's doing, but I'll take it. So yeah, so they got the, I think, yes, 16-inch apes with the reversed bend. I got some knockoff Daymakers. Oh, I put the Street Glide rear fender on it, got rid of that ugly taillight setup with the giant turn signal bars. And a Saddleman step-up seat with the red burgundy stitching. I love that seat. What else? Oh, the Fat 40 spokes front and back. I got 21 up front and 16 in the back with Fat White Shinko 777s. I don't care what anybody says about those tires. I ran them on both of my bikes, both my old Softail I had before this and this bike, and they have been great. I get decent mileage out of them, and they're grippy, and they've never failed me. I've never had any weird bubbling on the sidewalls or anything. I mean, it's all just been great. So I know a lot of people say that they're cheap tires and they wouldn't risk it and da-da-da-da-da, but I myself do not feel the same. That's it for the, I guess you could say, cosmetic mod. Now I'll go on to suspension. I have progressive suspensions, mono spring or mono shock, whatever you want to call it, where it's got the gas charge shock on one side and it has the progressive coil on the other. I believe that that other big name company is, I'm totally drawing a blank right now, Legends. I believe Legends have a similar setup for the front of these as one of their options. I got this, was a, I guess it was a demo model. They used it, they put it in a front end for a video, like a YouTube advertisement, and then took it out and sold it. So it's basically brand new, just the threads had some use marks on them, and it's been great ever since. So whether it's brand new or not, it's working great. And then on the back, I did the traditional DIY air ride, real similar to Dirty Air's basic kit. I didn't do a tank. It's compressor directed shocks. It's the Corvette, Monroe Corvette air shocks, and you know, this inexpensive 1/4 inch electric valve for the down, real small compressor from Bayer. I did buy a special stop switch setup. Well, it's a limit switch basically on 2 sliding bars that goes on your right shock, and you can adjust where the limit switch goes, and so you always repeat the perfect ride height regardless of the weight on your bike. It always comes up to that height and will not air up past that. And then I have another switch hidden that will override it to where I can air it past that if need be. Usually I only use that when I'm putting the bike on the lift and I'm working on it. I bring that up all the way till it touches the mufflers on the axles so that I get plenty of clearance for my drain pan. And if you can see down here, I've got my normal driving lamp switch here, and then that's my up and down air ride switch there, and I bought the nut from Harley to make it all match. I just think that was a nice finished touch. Never mind that little dangling piece of plastic there. It's just a plug for the, it's a weather cap for the plug for my phone charger. And if you can see down here, I've got my normal driving lamp switch here, and then that's my up and down air ride switch there, and I bought the nut from Harley to make it all match. I just think that was a nice finished touch. Never mind that little dangling piece of plastic there. It's just a plug for the, it's a weather cap for the plug for my phone charger. Oh, and then I did have one more cosmetic mod. I've gone through and changed out to steel braided lines on all my brakes and clutch. I have had the clutch recall done on this bike. That is the only recall that has been issued on this bike since I bought it. I know Harley gets a lot of publicity, bad publicity, whenever they have a recall. I think every bike manufacturer has plenty of recalls. I do not think a single recall on this bike is a bad thing at all. I think you don't make an omelet without breaking some eggs, and when you break eggs, every once in a while you get a little bit of shell in there. I never saw the symptom. The symptom was this: your clutch lever would begin to engage the clutch earlier and earlier until it got to the point where it wasn't disengaging the clutch enough. I never noticed any of that, and I've bled the system, which does tax your system a little bit. When I did the line swap, and I did 2 line swaps, and I can tell you that story another day, because I did a different set of bars at one point that didn't work out. Engine mods. This is pretty short and a very, you know, common list of engine mods. I'm running the Harley Davidson Stage 1 air cleaner kit. They make a couple different ones. The reason why I went with the Harley Davidson one was because I bought this bike shortly after, I think just a year after the 107 actually hit the showroom floor. This is the 2017, first year for the 107, but they came out late 2016. I was really into the look of this motor, and it was very fresh in my opinion, without being a departure. I know some people would like to see Harley take a departure from their looks, but I really like it. I think if anything, it tipped its cap to old style points and visual characteristics, and while at the exact same time bringing some modern design to a very old school way of building the motor. And when I say that, I'm talking about overhead valve push rod motors, right? So I did the stage 1 air cleaner. One of the stage 1 kits utilizes the original, you know, seashell looking air cleaner of the Milwaukee 8 and just deletes all the plastic. When you look at this bike from a distance, before you can really focus on the cool rocker boxes, you can see the shape of the air cleaner, and any Harley guy knows that's a Milwaukee 8 air cleaner from pretty far off, and so that's why I went with that kit. They also made the really cool elongated circle, like an ovalized circle air cleaner that you have to put the sock on in the wintertime, and I love that air cleaner, but they run a very similar air cleaner on the V-twin, and I really was trying to keep the distinguishing trademarks of the Milwaukee 8 on this bike, at least when I first got it and it was a new motor. So that's the Harley performance part on my bike. Now we move on to everything else. Originally, when I bought the bike, I put the Harley torque cam, I had that done while it was still in the first 60 days, so that would get engulfed into the warranty for the 2 years. I don't know why I felt the necessary to do that. I guess I just didn't want to void the rest of the engine warranty by putting an aftermarket part in it. But to my surprise, the rest of the stuff I did to it technically voided that warranty anyways, and here's the rest. So the rest I did, and remember I said this only has one Harley part on it, so we'll get back to that in a second. Harley performance part. So then I got the FP3 tuner, and I got the Vance & Hines power duals. I had helped friends put those on their twin cams and really liked the result, not knowing later on that we'd find out that Milwaukee 8's a totally different animal when it comes to exhaust. I just figured go with what works. And then I did the Daytona 400 slip-ons. I almost went with the S&S MK45s. I did a lot of searching on YouTube. I played all these exhaust comparison videos on my home entertainment system to make sure I got the best possible sound, flatten the EQ so I wasn't giving myself a illusion of a different sound. And it really came down to this one or the MK45s. And I went with the Daytona 400s just because Vance & Hines has been doing Harley exhaust for so long and in such, such volume. I just wasn't sure. S&S makes great products, but I just wasn't sure if their mufflers were well vetted yet. I run into a guy who's got a 2017 Road Glide with the Vance & Hines power duals and the MK45s, and that bike sounded way better than mine. Now, I'm not even gonna say way better. It just was like, for me, it hit the sweet spot of volume versus throatiness. It just was a great sounding bike, and I was like, oh, I should have gone with the MK45s. Later on, that would turn into and actually doing the Daytona 400 would turn into a great decision, because they're a 4-inch outside diameter muffler. The MK45s are 4.5. I ended up going with some extended bags that if you put 4.5s on, they rub really bad. So that was the number one reason, the first reason, not number one like best, but the first reason, while I'm glad I went with the Daytona 400s, the number two reason leads me to why there's only one performance part from Harley-Davidson on this bike now. I never really was satisfied with the horsepower and torque of this bike, so I started researching different cams, and Fuel Moto did this great comparison, like a cam shootout, with a 107 and I can't remember how many cams, but a decent amount of camshafts. Well, the one cam that checked the most boxes for me and my priorities was the S&S 475C. So this is a chain driven cam. They make a 475G, which is the gear driven, but I haven't heard anybody have any issues with the chain drive system on this bike. Granted, it's not, you know, it's not that old yet, but I just didn't feel like the extra expense of putting in a different cam plate. You know what I mean? I went ahead and got the chain driven 475C, put that in myself, and the reason why I went with the 475C, before I go any farther, is it has real good pull from like 2,000 RPMs on, well, more like 2,500 RPMs on. At 3,000 it really wakes up, and then it would pull stronger and stronger and stronger until you got to like 6,400 RPMs. And I think the reason why they stopped there was because of the valve train they were using on the test bike. And I'm not sure what kind of push rod, or not push rod, lifter upgrades they did, and I don't think they did any spring upgrades, so they just kind of stopped there. I put the cam in, and oh my god, did it change the sound of the bike. Of course, one of my things that I liked about the cam was that it has a real aggressive idle, the most aggressive one out of anything that Fuel Moto tested in this group. So, I mean, great performance and a real aggressive idle. I mean, that appeals to the kid in me and the adult, right? And sure enough, it did. The idle was badass, but what I did not expect was throughout the RPM range, and especially with the more throttle you pour into it, the better the bike sounds. I don't know if this audio is going to do it any justice, but it made the exhaust way choppier and gave you distinct hit notes on every fire that it didn't used to have. And when I say choppier, I mean it in the best way possible. And the bike is no less smooth than it ever was. It's not like I sacrificed smoothness for this choppy, aggressive sound. But the performance of this motor still was funky. So I told you about the curve, the horsepower and torque curves were very smooth and very progressive, right? It wasn't like a step and a distinct power band with this cam, even though it had high RPM performance, or higher mid-range RPM performance, I should say, and an aggressive idle. It still had a great, smooth, continuous, sweeping curve of power. Not for me. For me, it was at 5,000 RPMs, you were hitting a switch, and this bike changed like right underneath me. Like somebody just drove this bike up from underneath me and parked a higher performance one right there at 5,000 RPMs in any gear. I started trying to auto-tune the bike, which I've never had any luck with auto-tune on my FP3. And so at this point I go, I need to start really pushing this issue. I call and talk to Fuel Moto, and they think it's a back pressure issue with my exhaust. And they tell me, if you still got your stock mufflers, put those on and see what happens. But they themselves have tested cams with this header on it, not maybe the slip-ons, but with this header. And these slip-ons are not huge, so I'm like, I don't know. And then I started looking and doing some comparisons. They're not a direct comparison, because they don't use the S&S 475 cam, but they do use a similar cam from a different manufacturer on both the Jackpot 2-into 1-into 2 header and the Vance & Hines Power Dual. And the Vance & Hines Power Dual put out a little bit more power. I think what they were trying to say was, hey look, for almost double the price, you only get like 2 more horsepower. But what I'm looking at is, hey, I already own this thing. That's a good header. You're putting that up against one of the arguably best 2-1-2 headers out there. And so, I mean, now I think, well, my header, the only thing that's going to top it is a 2-into 1. And I like the dual look, and at the time I didn't know about the false lefties. So I'm happy with the header I have based on that. But it also told me that that's probably not the reason why I have this distinct power band that wakes up at 5,000 RPMs. I called Vance and Hines thinking that they were going to blow me off, and they really didn't. They started working with me on it, and with one kid, I say kid, I don't know how old he is. I think his name's Richard. He really cured all the problems at that upper RPM range, but now, off idle, I've got some fueling issues where it just, too rich, I think. It just pops out the tailpipes and stumbles sometimes. So I still got to call him back and try to figure some shit out. I tell you what, man, this bike now, with all that kind of worked out, pulls so hard. I was talking to the local Harley dealership, and the guy's like, I was getting some parts, and he goes, well, are you thinking about buying a bike? I said, dude, I just bought a bike from you guys like 2 years ago. And he goes, well, is there any bikes you want to ride? I'm bored. And I said, well, I really would love to ride something with a 114 in it, just to see how it compares to my bike and all the stuff I've done to it. And he's like, cool, let's do it. And I'm like, well, I don't have time today, you know. He's like, well, come on back anytime, we'll do it. So all of a sudden they start calling me all the time. A new salesman there. Their whole sales force over, like they turned him over. So the one guy that stayed is now like the closer, and everybody else is gone and changed. So she says, no problem, I will have a Road Glide special, because I told her I really wanted to check out Road Glides, because if I ever got a fairing bike, it'd be a Road Glide. And I really wanted to check out the 114. And she goes, okay, no problem, I will have a Road Glide special waiting for you when you get here if you want to come ride it. So I went over there on my lunch break, jumped on that thing, and she didn't even go with me. So I took off with the bike, and I went to pass this car, and I was like, I felt like that little old lady from back in the day. Where's the beef? Like it just didn't have it. And I'm like, oh man. And it reminded me of one of the biggest problems I had with the Milwaukee 8107 when I first got it, which is that 5,200 RPM rev limit. You, in first and second gear, you hit that so fast. And even though they're really torquey bikes, so one time I went to pass the car, I was too low in the RPM range. So the next time I wasn't even passing the car, I just kind of went to get on it, so I went down 2 steps. And now it's like, bang, RPM limit, wow. And then, and just power in general, it has some juice, but it just seems so pedestrian compared to what this does now. And that made me feel good, like I've you know, my money hasn't been wasted. And sometimes you get so used to the power of your vehicle that you start to take it for granted. You think, oh, I don't have that much power, and then when your buddies jumps on it, they're like, fuck, dude, that thing's ballsy, I don't know what you're complaining about. Well, that was kind of like, it had the same effect on me. If I had to get a 114 to even be close to this and still put money into it, you know, this is doing pretty good. I'm all right with this. So, oh, let's smoke. So then I got back and she's all, what do you think of it? And I told her, I said, you want me to tell you the truth, or you want me to make you feel like I really love it? And she's like, well, tell me the truth. I go, and this, I haven't even mentioned to you guys yet, is the truth. I said, I am so impressed with what little effect the fairing had on me. Because the first thing I did when I got on the bike was pull a left-hand U-turn to get out of the parking lot, because she had to point the wrong way. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to embarrass the fuck out of myself. This big old top-heavy fairing is going to fucking be awkward as shit, and I'm going to look like a fucking newbie. And I just whipped that thing right around. And I was like, okay. I don't even notice the weight on the top of the frame here. I mean, I knew I wouldn't notice it on the bars because it's not on the bars, but I was like, damn, that's cool. And then going down the road, you know, super stable. And actually for me, I don't know if it's the wheel and tire package on this bike or the seat, but I found myself being able to dip it into slow speed turns way easier. Like, and I'm just like, that's where I thought this would be a bitch. But the negative was, and I told her everything I told you about the engine. And she's like, well, these things are a beast. I just don't understand, you know, typical salesperson. And I'm like, well, beast or not, it ain't blowing the skirt up. So that's a list of all the mods on the bike. That about covers it. I'll probably just continue to record for a while because I have a bunch of commute left, but I'm hoping that is enough material for now. I will say, if you watch this video And please excuse my amateuristic technique and my slurring of my speech at times.